The Royal Aircraft Factory F.E.9. It appears that the design of the F.E.9 was not begun until late summer of 1916, and it is surprising that, at such a late stage in the war, the Royal Aircraft Factory should have designed a pusher aircraft for fighter reconnaissance duties. By that time, practical British synchronizing gears for machine guns were in use, and it was evident that tractor types generally were in performance superior to pushers. The F.E.9 was, by 1916 standards, compact for a two-seater, and the design staff at Farnborough probably hoped that the use of the 200-horsepower Hispano-Suiza engine would ensure a performance at least comparable with the contemporary types, while retaining the pusher's excellent field of fire for the observer's gun. To this end, the nacelle was carried high in the interplane gap and was connected to the upper and lower center section by steel tube end struts. This arrangement enabled the observer to fire rearwards over the upper wing. When the first F.E.9 was completed early in April 1917, it closely resembled the preliminary layout of the design that had been drawn up in September 1916. The unequal span wings had single-bay bracing, and the enormous extensions of the upper mainplanes were cable-braced, their landing wires being attached to inverted V-king posts directly above the interplane struts. Ailerons were fitted to the upper wings only, and had unusually large horn balances, similar to those fitted to the modified BE-12A, number 6511. The fin was considerably larger than the original design had planned for. The tail skid was mounted under the lower end of the rudder post, as on the SE-5 and RE-8. It was, in fact, a modified RE-8 component. The main undercarriage was a neat, sturdy oleo structure attached to the spars of the lower center section. Dual control was provided. There were two control columns side by side in the observer's cockpit. Of these, the left-handed one actuated the rudder in lieu of the rudder bar. Presumably it was feared that the observer might, in combat, stand on or obstruct the movement of the conventional rudder bar. The incidence of the tailplane could be varied in flight. Two pillar-type Lewis gun mountings were fitted, one on the front of the forward cockpit, the other behind it. The latter was provided to enable the observer to fire rearwards over the top wing. The first F.E.9, A4818, underwent its pre-flight inspection on the 4th and 5th of April 1917. At that early stage it had been decided to build a small production batch, and work on some components was already in hand. Serial numbers were allotted for 3 prototypes, A4818 to A4820, and 24 production F.E.9s, A4821 to A4844. By mid-July, at least 24 F.E.9 nacelles had been made at the Royal Aircraft Factory. But flight trials of A4818 were not satisfactory. The climbing performance was particularly poor, and the aircraft's handling characteristics were unpleasant. This was attributable to the fact that the balance areas of the ailerons were too large, but it was thought at the time that part of the blame lay with the rudder, which was regarded as insufficiently powerful. Nevertheless, A4818 went to France on the 6th of June 1917. It was flown by a number of Royal Flying Corps pilots at No. 1 Aircraft Depot, Saint-Omer, and also visited No. 56 Squadron at Liètre on 13th of June. The F.E.9 was subjected to a series of tests at Saint-Omer, one of them with an experienced artillery observer in the front cockpit. The reports of these tests were favorable, but they were so lacking in enthusiasm that Major General H.M. Trenchard recommended that the development of the type should be discontinued. After its return to Farnborough, A4818 was fitted with a new balanced rudder and was flown extensively, with progressive modifications to the tail unit, in a series of flight tests with the object of improving its controllability. Finally, in October 1917, it had a balanced rudder of a peculiar profile, and modified ailerons with smaller balance areas. This first F.E.9 continued to be flown on experimental work, at least until the end of March 1918. The ailerons that had finally been fitted to A-4818 were in fact the third type to be designed for the F.E.9, and were known as Type C ailerons. They proved to be by far the best of three designs used on the F.E.9. The Type B ailerons were fitted to the second F.E.9, A-4819, which had been completed by the 16th of October 1917. This aircraft had two-bay bracing for its main planes, which enabled it to dispense with the king posts above the upper wing. It had a balanced rudder similar to the second surface, fitted to A-4819, and its tailplane appeared to be fixed. On the 15th of December, 1917, this F.E.9 was handed over to No. 78 Squadron, a home defense unit at Biggin Hill, but its subsequent activities and fate are unknown. By the 1st of November 1917, the third prototype, A-4820, was finished. Like its immediate predecessor, it was rigged as a two-bay biplane. New ailerons and a new gravity tank had been fitted by the 20th of November, and the aircraft appears occasionally at Farnborough records until the 23rd of January 1918. It had undergone performance tests on the previous day. No attempt to press the manufacture of the 24 production F.E.9s was made. No doubt Trenchard's justified condemnation of the type was sufficient to seal its fate, but the design provided the basis for the NE-1 and AE-3. In my last video, number 46, on the FE-8, I made an absolutely unforgivable mistake. I got a comment from Mark Hales, who rightfully pointed out that I had mistakenly said number 80 Squadron when the text says number 40 Squadron. Thankfully, Mark was there to point this out, and I'm forever grateful. One other thing. The music at the beginning and end of my British Fighters of World War I videos, Rule Britannia, was recorded in 1914, so I thought it extremely appropriate. And I expect everyone to stand at attention